everybody. Welcome back to Desis and Dragons. Today, we have a little something different for you. For this episode of Downtime, me and my friends, Shubham and Chirag, who will introduce themselves, are going to be discussing and dissecting the first two episodes of Miss Marvel, the latest Disney Plus show featuring Pakistani American superhero Kamala Khan. We all obviously felt very represented by it in some parts, and this is an intro that's going on for too long, so I'm gonna throw it over to Shubham.
I was about to say, I was like, weren't we supposed to introduce ourselves before the show?
Quick, do
yeah.
it quickly.
Hi, my name is Shubham. I'll be talking about Miss Marvel, which I'm already a big fan of, and I'm super excited to just share my thoughts on this. Chirag.
Hi, I'm Chirag Indrani. Happy to be talking about Miss Marvel. It's a great show, and I'm excited to be part of this tangents and taglines or whatever the heck this show is going to become.
We're really trying to nail the name down. So, Indrani, run us through some of the ones that you've considered.
I'd rather not.
Don't make the audience. Don't make the audience suffer like this.
So we thought that something with nerd in the name would really work with our focus group.
I just want everyone who is hiring Indrani for their marketing teams to just note this down. You can tell.
Hey,
this
hey,
is
hey.
peak.
The first idea is never the best idea, right? It takes
Wasn't that like a
iteration,
fifth one? I'm just saying.
No, it was her first one. Her first thing into the game was nerd.
Fair enough.
Now, speaking
it should contain the word nerd.
All right.
Speaking of nerds, this show, Kamala Khan is the epitome of a nerd. As I take us back into the topic at hand, as we talk about Miss Marvel.
I feel like Tangents was a really good name addition. Should definitely be something about Tangents because we're gonna have a lot of those. But yes, going back to the show and the nerd that is Kamala Khan and the brilliant opening that the show starts with, that just really grips you because it's
for who doesn't know, Miss Marvel is the new show on Disney Plus, as we said, starring Kamala, with Kamala Khan as one of the first Muslim American.
Kamala Khan.
Played by Iman Vellani, who is also apparently a big Marvel nerd, big Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. fan, which is always cool to see. Basically, playing a young New Jersey superhero, young Muslim Pakistani American who gained superpowers. Somehow, we're figuring it out.
Yes, we're figuring out what the magic behind it is. Iman Vellani also cosplayed as Miss Marvel when the comics started coming out. So I just love these little arcs that people have landed up having where they start off dressing
Tom
up.
Holland.
Yeah, start off dressing as the hero they want to aspire to be, and then they actually end up playing it. I feel like I really missed out on an opportunity, and I should have played Superman as a kid. Maybe that would have really panned out for me.
Maybe.
Or Batman.
You know, if you grow your hair out now and start wearing some bracelets, who knows what will
happen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get ostracized from society. That's about it.
Honestly, I'm happy it didn't happen for me. I cosplayed once. Well, I went to a Halloween party as a cowboy, and another time as the guy from Assassin's Creed. And I got no movie offers for either of those.
Damn. You'd think that they would cast you for Assassin's Creed, considering it's set. Well, it's more set in the Middle East, but at least you're closer to that skin tone.
Yes.
I'm closer than the guy who got
Kamala Khan's favorite video game, Assassin's Creed. Speaking of Kamala Khan.
Yes. Kamala Khan. Let's talk about episode 1.
Yes.
Which has been
right.
Episode 1, Generation Y. How are we doing this? Are we just summing up what happened in the episode?
No, we don't need to sum up because if you haven't seen it, go see it. This is a spoiler.
Yeah, go see it. This is spoiler.
This is spoiler.
Yeah.
Oh,
spoiler.
yeah.
We'll talk about our favorite bits of the show.
How about this? All three of you, just tell, or both of you, and then me as well. Tell me your favorite moment from the show. First episode. Chirag, you can go first. Pick your top 3, but ideally just one, if you can keep it.
Sure. In episode 1, one of my favorite moments from the show is, I saw it last week, and now everything's leaving my mind. Let's see, happen like that. It was fun seeing the. I think it was my favorite moment, followed by the saddest moment when you saw the dad come in. As Hulk.
Yes.
And he came in, and it's just this guy.
Yeah.
He would have killed it, and he was as a thing, and he's just he was really trying, and it was a nice outfit, dang, that's a good Hulk look.
Yeah.
And it was and then it got very sad when he was turn out. I understand, why you'd have that innate reaction. And then there's that bit where you don't want to apologize when you as a teenager have offended your parents. And you get, but it's the parents were trying really hard. That's one thing. It was these are stereotypically strict, Asian pets. Like, but they're actually not that bad. They are trying. Even in episode 2, you see that they are trying to like understand with the daughter, and that in that regard, they're stricter than some parents, but they are understanding. They're not totalitarian, and it's nice. You showing that openness. They were willing to help out. The mom would have also helped make the Captain Marvel outfit if she told her in advance. They would have sewed together or something. They could have done something. It just shows like, this family's trying to connect and they do care about each other. And yeah, that's why I really like, the dad. The dad's just such a good character. Yusuf Khan, played by Mohan Kapoor.
Yeah.
He's very great.
Excellent. Indrani?
Oh, I spent the whole time. I agree with everything
Yes.
that Chirag said, but I think my favorite moment has to be it was this very small thing, but it just cemented why the show is so good. Like it felt good for me is when they're walking by, I think it was like some food truck, and the food truck guy knows the mother and Kamala, and he's like, "Kaise ho?" And she says, the mother says, "Bilkul." And in Hindi, that just means, obviously, or like, of course, right? And but the implication of it being that, oh, I'm good, and it's just such a uniquely like Desi way of speaking to one another that I've never seen captured. And I know it sounds like a very like throw in sort of moment, but that was something that I really liked. But like from like a bigger moment, I think I genuinely loved the texting scene between the Bruno and Kamala. It was all right. We had one. We got it out of the way, and now we won't do it again. All right. Are we settled?
This is the third time Bruno's like showed up in a Disney property. I just want to.
I feel like there's someone out there who's really got it out for Bruno. But anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree.
No, sorry. Indrani, I actually was finishing the texting scene thing before we lead in.
Yeah. I think like that scene is representative of like the general art direction and the cinematography and the way they played with colors, and it's just such a lively, bright show. And like often a lot of Desi culture is color, right? Like we're a very colorful, warm, beautiful place to be, and it captures that without being like stereotypical. Do you know what I mean? Like
I didn't feel like I was watching an unnecessarily kitsch marriage scene to feel like I was in a Desi setting. It was just colorful, and it felt bright and hopeful without feeling like cringy and kitsch. In the sense that it's often gaudy, right? Like when they show Desi colors, they make it gaudy, and it's not. But the thing is, like, not everyone dresses in gaudy colors. In fact, colors are like a good way to express personality, and people do that. But yeah, so I totally get where you're coming from over there.
And the third one is the interaction between Bruno and Yusuf, the father, when he presents him with the Alexa style device.
It is Zuzu.
Zuzu. And that he programs it to be able to understand Urdu.
Yeah.
And my God, like I almost had tears in that moment. Like, and you know what? The token white guy in this show, respect. Like Bruno has my whole.
It's a solid ally. It's an excellent ally who's clearly grown up, like in the community and never kind of felt like he's not alienated, nor is he othering the community he's interacting with.
Yeah, and you see more of that in episode 2.
Yeah.
I mean,
we'll talk about that as well. But like that scene was just like so heartwarming for me. And obviously they expand on it later with like Bruno having his own, I feel like, troubles with his family. I don't know where that's going yet, but anyway, that feeling of belonging.
But that's a comic spoiler. But yeah. But like I think he lives with his grandmother. Like he's given like 8 packs of food, and he just like the bottom one for Nona, which is like such a tasty thing. Just like here's a bunch of food.
I love that. But yeah, those were my top 3 moments.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
What about you, Shubham?
So I agree with the Hulk one because I think it was a great representation of the barrier between like two generations that exist in communication. And also the scene where they're planning out the Miss Marvel outfit and they're going through and you just see the graphics on the walls and
Oh
the
yeah, the what if Captain Marvel
yeah.
outfit.
Yes.
It was very reminiscent of Spider-Verse.
Mhm.
But I love that they were able to integrate it so seamlessly so that it wasn't overwhelming, but also did a really good job of just making you aware that the wider Marvel universe still exists, but this is about this neighborhood. This is about Jersey City, and it really comes to life. I've never been to any part of America, and I still felt like they really brought this unique part of New York to life. Not New York, Jersey.
It's not New York; it's a
Yeah,
different state.
Jersey.
yeah,
Yeah.
to life on its own without making it feel like I had to go see a Spider-Man zip by. And Indrani, you took the food thing, but I just love that the food was so ready and that the mom had it, because I've had that where I've had friends come over and then my mom has like 3 meals prepared to go. And like also because I remember the first time I had like my friends over for dinner, um, they got served like one roti, right, or like one dosa or something, and they were like, "Oh, is that all we are going to eat?" In their minds, like they were like, "That feels like very little food." And then they realized that, oh, you just keep getting served warm, fresh off the plate food as you eat, and that they have to learn to say no. Um, or you will just keep getting served more food. So
Remember, kids, just say no when you're at auntie's house, otherwise she'll never leave.
yeah, you have to say no like 3 times, or it's just not going to stick. And give a
Yeah.
good reason. Like that's the weird thing about how to say no politely. You have to be like, "Oh, that was delicious, but I cannot possibly eat more."
Yeah.
Uh,
I've I think every Desi meal comes not only with food but a life lesson in setting good boundaries,
yeah,
which is great.
it's
You
great.
know, so
So yeah, probably
twofer.
those.
Yeah.
Yeah, episode one, I think also did a really good job of um, just establishing characters across the board. Everyone felt so well thought out. Bruno, even Nakia, who had very few scenes, but I could tell that there was a lot to be explored over there.
Yeah, she's quite interesting, definitely. Yeah, and even like one of the member of the family that we've kind of forgotten, but who's kind of the element that is the brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amir, I believe is his name. He's like he's got his big thing is that he's got a wedding coming up, and you feel that element. And when you see him, you see all these different elements. Like, he's a bit of a dick. Well, he's very religious, but he still cares about his sister. But he's being a jerk about it, which is fine. He's an older brother. That's what you expect.
Yeah.
I don't know what the age difference is. It could be 4 years, could be more. But yeah, he does care about the family. He's just, and it gives the strength that this isn't a stereotypical like family. This is a family that cares about each other. They aren't like, everyone's been to the girl in the family. No, they do care. They're like, and they're understanding. Like the brother's American, and he still gets. That's the thing. And as we find out in episode 2, he had a got phase, which sounds hilarious.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that speaks to the larger way that they handle like that Pakistani family. You know what I mean? Like often when you think of Desi families, like the mother's super strict or like you're not, there's so many restrictions and this and that. Obviously they're playing off of those things which are true to some degree, but also they're not like the family is genuinely good, likable people with their own like reasons for, restricting Kamala the way they do. You know what I mean? It never feels like you're like, this person's just getting in the way of this character's growth. They never feel like a hindrance. They feel like a genuinely good part of the character's life.
Yeah. Something I felt, and I felt even more in episode 2, is that I was watching this family like, if they removed the superhero part of this could be just like a good family Disney show, like That's a Raven, that's
it could
what's
be
another family? Yeah, like that's the thing. The characters were strong enough, they were interesting enough, and like, what misadventures is this guy going to get into?
I mean, you definitely see this because in the first episode, the powers only come in at the very late end of the show. So till then, it's all family, and that's actually, I mean, people have often compared Kamala Khan to Spider-Man because they're both dealing with. am I a superhero or am I a teenager? How do I balance this normal life with the superhero life? How do I kind of cat not cat
balance
trapezium?
it on.
Yeah, and the fact that the first episode is mostly just the exploration of the challenges of being a teenager does a really good job of then setting up. Oh, it's only going to get worse once you get powers. You think it's going to make it easier, but it's going to be the whole thing of with great power. I'm not going to
Yeah.
say the
Exactly.
Say the thing, Bart. No. Speaking of the
Cosmic.
powers,
yes,
Yeah.
I know there are some people who are like, oh, they changed it, but whatever, dude.
yeah.
I mean,
Cool powers. Like
they still
Hard
had
Light is
they
cool.
still had like the stretchy
Yeah.
arm, the big fists.
Yeah.
Right? So they're still doing it. They're just doing more with it, which is always like, all right, that's fun.
My
Which
question:
I-
yeah,
you
which
guys
I
have read the
like.
comics, or at least I
No.
don't know. Okay.
I
know
have
only
not
little
started
spoilers.
reading it, just a little bit.
I-
So I need to finish the first run.
My question is: are her powers a result of like mutation, or what are they a result of?
Do you want to take it or should I?
Go for it.
So in the comics,
Mhm.
she is inhuman. She is descendant from
Right.
like a species called inhuman, but their powers are dormant. Then they're exposed to Terrigen mists, which just activate their powers.
Right.
This is at a time when like Marvel was like, we want to have X-Men stuff, but they own the X-Men. We want mutants, so let's make brand new mutants with the whole thing. They did Terrigen mists. That's why Miss
Right.
Marvel and Kamala Khan was the most exciting character who got this power, who like got the power, the most interesting person. So they followed
Right.
that. But there were like different ones. Like there's like an Indian one, and
Right.
like there's like a couple of Indian ones. There's a cool Bollywood guy who got turned into like a wooden gangster, and I like that's fun. There's like all
Okay,
these different
interesting.
stuff that's happening. But yeah,
Yes.
essentially she is descended from a species, and her powers are acted by Terrigen mists, which is like
I kind of like
don't
that.
need to do
Then they went with a different route because this different route offers two things. One, it seems to tie deeper into our personal heritage, which
Mhm.
is and that is authentic to like say the Pakistani American experience. And secondly, because I think the Desi community in general, or any pure person of color in general, has already suffered enough in terms of being othered as a different species. So we probably didn't need our first real representation in media to be, oh, they're a completely different species that descended from
They
a different.
descended from a different species.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so let's speak about that in episode 2 because they go into more details about her exploring her powers, doing cool stuff. But yeah, like if we're going through the fun stuff that happened in there, like learning about her family, like speaking to her nanny on the phone, that was a lot of fun. Like hearing
Yeah.
the word nanny anyway, just like, I use that word, and it's fun
Nana.
seeing that. But that's like the nanny is really close to the phone. Like I've done that. I've had to help my grandma literally pull the phone away from her face. And she's not even
Yep.
looking at the camera. It's like right here. She's
Yeah.
not looking at it.
I
It's like,
love it.
And they always
too
speak
real.
like 10 decibels louder as if they need to shout all the way across the 7 oceans. And you're like,
Yep.
no, the phone doesn't need you to shout. You can say it softly.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
also
it's so good.
if they're like mine, they're like can't hear, so they think you can't hear. So like,
Right.
please shout louder, like my level.
Oh, man.
Come to my level. Yeah, I get that. That's fun. And yeah, also
Because isn't like a part of hearing, like being able to hear yourself is like an
Yeah.
important part of
That's how you
speaking,
calibrate your
right?
volume, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
True.
they probably shout to compensate for
Yeah.
that.
exactly. The other thing that I thought was very fun in that in episode 2 is the she had a little Bollywood moment of herself when she started dancing and the world started changing, but it was an American song. So it's like, yeah, she's still doing Daisy stuff, but she's American. So of course she would dance to an American song.
Yeah.
And
Two things. First, about the magic itself. I mean, the mother knows, right? That the
There's
bangles.
clearly-
the mother
Yeah.
knows something's weird going on.
Yeah.
No. The mother, like the way she snatches it out of her hand, and obviously the whole illusions of, oh, your nanny lives in a dream world and this and that. Obviously, there's more to be explored in episode 2, but
Oh yeah, 100%.
like episode 1, like the mother, the way she took it from
Yeah.
Kamala, I'm like, she knew.
I feel
She
like
knew what's up.
so I don't. Yes, I agree. That's my personal idea as well. But I also think it could very much be there's just a lot of history attached to it, and therefore she
Yeah.
doesn't want to. She's like trying to suppress it.
Yeah.
Right.
It could
And
be
if you-
that.
And if you listen to
Because-
the Illuminatis, they're like saying like, oh, the person who had this bangle before, had affairs, murdered a man, had a secret family. It's like, do you really want to wear that? But yeah, I get your point. Indrani, please speak.
Yeah. I think I'm hoping it's the latter, because if it is like she straight up knew, why would she just put it in the attic for anybody to go grab, right? So maybe it is the latter, where she knows that it has like strong connotations to it. And yeah, but I'm excited to see the dynamic between Kamala and her mother, because I feel like I'm sure there's a lot of kids who see that and they're like, yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, I feel like a
feel
lot
that
of Desi children are
contentious
going to be
relationship.
exactly processing their
Yeah.
relationships with their parents through this show.
Yeah.
One way or the other.
First, Encanto did that to Latinx children, and now Disney's coming for us. Disney's coming for the Desis.
Yeah, basically. And the second thing, which is wow, my brain just lost the other thing that I was gonna
So
say.
was this about episode 2?
Fine. It was about episode 1.
The way the thing got snatched away and the magic. You were gonna say something?
I was gonna talk about the peripheral. I actually don't remember what I was gonna talk about, but it's fine. I will start This is our first time doing this, folks. So I'm sure we'll learn how to better manage.
Yeah, or we will just keep floundering for the rest of the series.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah, whatever gets us more views. But yeah, go on.
No, I'm saying we spent the first 10 minutes not planning anything, just trying to come up with a name.
Yeah. We should have recorded that bit as well.
Go on, tell us what you're thinking.
I really also love the peripheral representation in the show. Like, obviously the family exists, but the world around them and the people around them also feel so alive and like live, like the world feels so lived in. When I say the world, I obviously mean they're part of Jersey City. And I gotta shout out my girl, our girl Anjali, because when she showed up on screen, the way she was speaking, the way she was just like gossiping, oh my god, I lost it. Like the amount of times I've heard that exact like intonation and speaking from other like older gossipy aunties is amazing.
That should have come with a trigger warning, because like that was too real.
It was so good. I literally paused and I like took a video of her on the screen and I was like, hey, it's you. And I texted her and she's like, surprise, I'm there. And amazing.
She's been in every episode so far, so I hope that keeps going.
Yeah, I hope that keeps going. Shout out to Anjali, we love you.
Anjali Bhimani, in case people are not sure which Anjali we are referring to. It might be GDLJ, and then you're very confused.
Anjali Bhimani is the incredible person who plays Ruby, Auntie Ruby, or Ruby
Auntie.
Ruby Auntie on Miss Marvel.
So yeah.
And
yes.
And like, not just her, but the like obviously her other friends. And I remembered what I was going to say. It was about this as well. When she fails her driving test, both her parents just pull up.
Yeah.
And the mother calls the guy a kamina.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, this is it.
Oh, the moment where she's swearing in a language he doesn't understand. Oh yeah,
yes,
that's totally. I often the thing is I feel like that's it's definitely a thing that happens across all cultures, right? It's not just Desi's thing. It's anyone who can speak a different language will swear. And I always find it a bit weird because I've been on the receiving end of it, where someone's speaking in a language I don't understand around me, and it's essentially to exclude me. And I always find it's like a very underhanded way of doing things, but I think it's very authentic. So I was like, respect for, because it's exactly how that would happen.
And it's also like in media, there's so many examples of like, people from other cultures cursing. Like I know like curse words from languages I don't speak, but just by virtue of having seen a show or a movie. And I don't like, outside of that Far Cry game set in like,
I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, the Indian one, the Far Cry 4 set in the Himalayas.
Yeah. Outside of that, I can't come up with anything where you see like, I don't know, an auntie calling someone a kamina is my favorite thing. Like I just thought that was such a
kamina tariqa. I agree.
Yeah.
And
yes, sure.
And immediately after that, in the car, she was like, "Oh, it's all my fault that you failed this test. It's from my bloodline." And it's like to make it. It's like it's blaming yourself, but just really to make the guilt hurt more.
Yeah,
that was
basically.
real. That's why that actress is actually my mom's favorite one from the show.
Of course,
that would be Zenobia Shah. Not for that specific reason, but just the acting's really good. If you see her in an interview, I think she has a proper American accent.
Taking notes. Your mom's like,
No, my mom doesn't need notes. My mom's great. Mom's the perfect mom.
love
Mom, if
that.
you're seeing this, I love you. Please don't do this to me.
Very well played, sir. Well played. Let's just quickly jump ahead to episode 2 because then we can wrap both in and start talking about like the larger things that are going on.
Yeah.
We have a few things that happen in episode 2. The powers get expanded. Our villains are introduced, or at least some of them. I'm not sure what's going on.
Bureaucracy is always
A villain.
a villain in
Damage-
MCU. So
Damage
Sure.
control is like getting up. They first appeared in Spider-Man,
Yeah.
the first Spider-Man movie in
Yeah.
the MCU,
Yeah.
and then they showed up in the third one. It's like, okay, now they're just going after all the teens. Apparently, they're too scared to go after the adults, but they're going after the
Yeah,
teens.
because who the hell is going to try arrest Thor? But come, yeah.
I'd love
Thor
to
has
see them
diplomatic
try, though.
immunity
Oof.
now. That's going to be difficult.
And you also have, of course, our newest release reveal, which is Kamran, played by Rish Shah, who has an excellent scene where he steps out of the pool to Jalebi Baby by Tesha.
So, that was so much fun. My mom was just so
Jalebi
excited when she heard that song.
Yeah, I've been jamming to that song for a while now, and the thing is, if you take it seriously, it's very cringy, and you're like, why would you? But if you take it as a fun tongue-in-cheek song, it's really fun. It's essentially a song talking about how you're all these different kinds of delicious Indian sweets, and I mean the number of times like hip hop has compared people to a lot of things. This
I
is
take
like
you to the candy shop.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I feel like this is almost polite. So I had a great time watching Kamran step out and literally drip to Jalebi Baby. That was
that rip.
Yeah. And I also think it's super cool that that shot, which is usually reserved for a very specific
a depiction of women in general.
Yeah, depiction of women, but also like specific depiction of like hyper masculine, like like there's just
Daniel
a
Craig
beach
out of the
for
water.
California vibe to it that you often see.
Yeah.
And I like that this like
more,
I don't know,
more lean, more chill, kind of less less
and
macho.
also like fucking Desi, right? Like I don't see many Indian people
I've
getting
literally never seen, except in Bollywood films, right? I've never seen the equivalent of an American film happen.
Yeah, and even then they're hyper muscular.
Yeah.
You know? Like those they're all like super muscular and all that kind of thing. But like this guy was like, he's still attractive, very attractive and athletic. But the funny thing about Kamran, it's just like, because I watched it with my mom, like I watched it first, like, oh wow, this is cool. And then like at the end, like, oh wow, I'm surprised. I'm watching 1 minute after show, she's like, is he a plant? I'm just like, how?
Ooh, interesting. The mom senses were tingling.
How? He's like, oh, he's a British guy who's a senior who just suddenly shows up. Like, you're too smart. You're far too smart.
You should get your mom on the show.
Yeah,
like genuinely, we should get your mom on the show. Not joking.
I'm curious because that is. I was taken in, but I was like, of course, there's a senior being introduced in the second episode. That's the thing that happens in every young youth show. There's a sexy scene. I didn't even realize that it was being introduced. I was like, he's probably been around, and Kamala's probably been crushing on him for a while. But no, I did not realize that plant totally took me by surprise. I did not see that coming.
He just seemed like very cool and all that.
Yeah.
I think for me, what gave me a hint that he might not be just like, one of us types is that so far they've set up Kamala, Bruno, Nakia not so much, but at least Kamala and Bruno to be outcasts. Like the cool kids don't want to.
They set up Nakia's outcast aspect in the second episode.
In the second episode. Yeah. But like, you know what I mean? Like the majority of like the setup in the first episode was like, oh, okay, they're a little bit of an outcast, right? And suddenly this obviously very cool person who's being invited directly by Zoe to her party is like, oh, I'm going to hone in on Kamala, who, by the way, deserves all that attention, no doubt. But there was a dissonance between what we've been told about the character so far and the way she was treated. And initially I was like, oh, is this just because this character, is Kamran just like, sees past that bullshit and is just genuinely interested? Or is there more to it? So there was a little bit of that thought in my head. But by the end of it, I was like, oh yeah, he's just totally crushing on. Then he's like, oh, I'd like you to meet my mom. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
It was great.
So yeah.
Wait, so are we thinking the mom's in the visions that Kamala's having, right?
Yes.
Is she?
Yeah, she's the same person that she's been having.
Okay.
She's
I got
the one
confused.
who's been like, Whole
I
name,
got
yeah.
confused because the outfits were slightly different. I thought, is that her great grandmother? I'm like, okay, but your thing makes sense.
So does that mean that she's been around since that time period?
No, I probably got confused. I probably got confused. That's fairly
no,
fair.
because I'm wondering if she's coming through the magic item as well in the visions, and then we meet
Yeah.
her in
Hmm.
person.
I have a theory about that. Are we
Yeah.
ready for theories, or
Yeah.
is that coming later?
No, we can do theories. Let's do
So
theories.
Let's do theories.
in the Marvel comics, she's like an Inhuman. But in Marvel comics, the original Captain Marvel, who was a Kree man, he gained his powers from the Nega bands, which are just like bands that you wear on your wrists. And there's two of them, and you bind them together, and you
Right.
change from human
Right.
form into superpowered form.
Right.
But when we saw Kamala, she went into another reality and then came out.
Right.
So it could be she has one of the bands, but whoever has the other one can contact her. That's how you're seeing these kind of things. They're reaching out to you, which means her powers are not inhuman. Her powers are from the Kree,
Right.
which could be a possibility.
Which makes sense considering Captain Marvel
Yeah.
has a lot of connections to the Kree as well.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
yeah, that I see what you're saying.
I like
That could
it.
be.
I like it.
Yeah, definitely could be.
It also explains definitely why this other character's looking for her, because she's like, well, I want the second bangle back.
Yeah. Like there's like so many audience who's just like, oh well, it'd be so great to tie it into the Inhumans and all that. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't think Marvel's going to do that because Inhumans failed twice. There was like a movie, and then they turned it into a TV show, and I still haven't watched it.
Yeah,
I don't.
And then they brought it back in another movie just to kill the character off, in a gruesome way. So if anything, Marvel's like, we are done with Inhumans for a time.
I don't know. They killed off Professor X and Fantastic Four. I don't think they're done with the X-Men or the Fantastic Four.
True.
I just looked this up, and Kamran's mother's name is Najma.
Yeah.
And it means star in Urdu.
Ooh.
And there's already been a theme of like, how
I mean, Marvel's,
Aisha,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Following a trail of stars back to her family, and like there's a lot of star
symbology,
symbology around like the whole Marvel, Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, that sort of like group of So I feel like you're definitely onto something.
Yeah, it feels more like they'll go with Kree as opposed to like the Inhuman thing.
Definitely.
But you never know. Why not? Because Inhumans are from the moon.
I have a question.
It could also be.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of the scene where the investigators are grilling Zoe, I think? Yeah, and then they decide to go take on that. I feel like that scene was definitely trying to emulate certain aspects of like profiling, racial profiling.
I was so impressed that they actually mentioned, the FBI are already looking at these places. I'm like, no, ever since 2001, maybe earlier, FBI have been looking at those places. They have been like patrolling and profiling and doing all that kind of stuff. And it's like, I can't believe Disney went out and said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Disney's not afraid to like say anything. Like they said stuff about the American military complex in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I was surprised they'd bring it up here. Yeah, so I was like, oh, that's interesting.
I wasn't for me it felt a little bit like an expectation. Like had they beaten around the bush, I would be like, okay, that's a failure of like I wasn't like, oh yay, they did it. It was more like good.
Got it.
That they should have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So first of all, fuck whoever that lady character is, Agent Sadie.
Yeah.
Alicia Rayner did a wonderful job of making
you were
me
great.
hate her.
Excellent.
You were great. Yeah.
Fuck your character though.
Yeah, it's like Homelander, like the actor, fantastic. I hate your character, but you do a really good job at making you hate your character.
Yeah, it was really, really well done, and it was like almost slimy watching them like manipulate Zoe in the beginning, and then like jump into the interrogation, and I liked that Zoe who obviously lives in a sort of world of her own, but the moment they start like going down the racial profiling side of things, they're like, oh, is she South Asian? Like what? Like you see that look of like like
that discomfort comes
excuse me on her face. Yeah.
One thing that confused,
it was a very uncomfortable scene.
One thing that confused me is just like, when she was in disguise, Kamala Khan, she had a costume that covered like most of her face, and I'm just like, yeah, Zoe, you saved her, but it's just like, how are you so able to figure out that this person wasn't Middle Eastern, wasn't like thing, and just like me, like that is a South Asian jawline if I've ever seen one. I mean, what? How did you figure that out?
Zoe's,
I mean,
did you know Zoe's
yeah.
character is actually like a spy? She's a detective.
Yeah. She studies that
Oh.
form of
No,
eugenics.
I mean,
where
I
they
thought
study
it was okay.
Yeah.
Like considering like you could still see the color of her skin
Yeah.
through like
yeah,
the
but
rest
like
of her.
we're all like Latinx, Middle Eastern thing. We're all brown. You know?
Yeah, that
We're
is
all
true. That
different
is
flavors
true.
of
That is
brownie.
true.
Yeah. I think they had to walk that line and just kind of get that
Yeah,
figure it out somehow. Maybe they
thing going.
did Zoe hear Kamala speak, and maybe that's kind of gave it away.
But she doesn't
I don't
have
know.
an doesn't have a
True.
Pakistani accent. Her accent's as American as
Yeah,
anyone else's.
it's true. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
entirely sure how Zoe picked it up. But okay, the other thing, which I thought was really good about episode 2, and I wanted to kind of highlight it because before we miss it, is the scene where they are in the mosque praying, and Nakia and Kamla are talking about their side of the mosque not being maintained. And I won't get into too much detail because, again, not a lived experience on my side. But I know from my Muslim friends who have had to like do the similar thing. I know a friend of mine who's had to take like similar initiatives like Nakia to be like, hey, we need change and we should be represented in our own faith the same way the men are. And this essentially this aspect of feminism that's kind of growing in the Muslim community, which I think is necessary all Orthodox communities, including Hinduism, right? And it's great because Nakia does so many great things in just one swift scene. She in the scene where she explains that why she dresses the way she is, she's like, this makes me feel comfortable in my identity. I don't like having my feet in two parts of the world. I fucking resonated with that. That kind of weird space where you don't quite belong. You're not American, but you're not Indian, or you're not, and you're supposed to be both. And if you do any one too much, other people are kind of weirded out by you. And then you kind of at some point you decide, screw it, this is the identity I'm picking for myself, and you all can figure it out by yourself. That was, I think,
she is Pakistani, but yeah.
No, the fact that she decided, because she has a mixed ethnicity in the show, right?
Is she? I thought she was just very fair.
No, I think that's why she.
Yeah, she has she has mixed. You said American and Indian, but she's
no. From
like,
speaking my.
You're talking about yourself.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
No. I know that Nakia is not Indian.
Because I feel like which agreed. I'll just also quickly touch upon the fact that it's important and monumental that this is a show about a Pakistani superhero.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of us brown people feel represented, and that's great. But the fact that it's like a story of like a Pakistani family and a Pakistani character is important. And I personally like think anybody who's engaging with the show should be mindful of like uplifting that fact in and of itself, because I think that's also like a super important element, just generally. Because anyway, go on, Shubham. Yeah, Nakia is.
That scene,
amazing.
But also the scene where she realizes that if she wants to see change in the mosque, she's going to have to be the one who runs for it. I think that's a tough realization that a lot of young people have had over the last, this generation, basically, where they're like, oh, we are not getting a fair end of the deal, and we want to see better lives for ourselves, and we're going to have to be the ones who take that forward. And I think it's such a healthy representation that it was very kind of comforting to see. So yeah, just big shout out to sorry. Also, where she's going around at Eid and getting votes secured, and then she plays Kamala's dad like a fucking pipe piper. I cheered. That was so beautifully. That was a masterclass. It just
like a minute. Wow, a minute ago she just said, "Wow, politics is dirty," and then immediately dives into it. Like, well, I'm gonna go targeted missile for your heart. I am your other daughter, and I was like,
brutal. Like, just no one sees it coming. What's Kamala's dad's name? It's
Yusuf.
Yusuf Khan's sitting there, and he's like, "Oh, I have to give it to my friend," which is such a dumb way to go about voting for anything.
But also like a very
Totally how everyone would do it.
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
popularity vote, right? And in any kind of and then she's like, oh, but I'm your daughter's best friend. I'm basically like a second daughter to you, and that's pulling out like the nuclear arms right there, right? And then she's like, and you wouldn't want to crush our dreams, would you? And you can see Yusuf's face just kind of like, oh no, what have I gotten myself into? I was like, mwah, mwah. I was so happy when I saw that scene, Chad. I was thrilled.
Yeah, and also other thing, I think another scene in Nadia is just like, is this the second time that Disney has acknowledged, women's periods? First in turning red, and then here when they're just like passing the tampon. I'm just like, okay, great. So they are acknowledging that happens. I mean, cool.
Well done, Disney.
You've had princesses for 90 years, but okay, good that you figured that out.
I really like the nonchalance of the acknowledgement, which I feel like is the best way of doing most.
It's like it's like the gay couple at the locker. They just
and it's not just the acknowledgement of periods. That's great.
Yeah.
The acknowledgement. Oh my God, let me talk about this for a second.
Yes, because
let me talk about because Shubham, I don't know if you remember. You were surprised when I told you about this many years ago.
Yeah.
It's tampons, right? You insert them into your body and you insert them
for the audience, I wasn't surprised by that fact. That's not what she was leading into.
Oh no, I'm getting to what Shubham was surprised by.
Okay.
And what I think was great is that Nakia acknowledging that like Indian moms or Indian parents get weird about that with like their daughters, and like tampons are a bit like because you're like putting it up your body and it like has unnecessary allusions to like penetration, right? And like that's such a fucked up thing for a young girl to like grow up with, like that element of like sexualization almost of this very necessary normal like sanitary product that you use. And the acknowledgement of that on top of the acknowledgement of like, oh, menstruation exists, it was such like I just fucking felt that. The first time I got tampons home and I was talking about it with my mom, my dad walked by and he looked at me, he's like, and I remember what he said to me. He said, just be careful. And he had a look of like disdain that really threw me off. And then I ended up not using it for a few more years after that. But I like that acknowledgement. And when I told Shubham that like, oh, I need like pads, not tampons, because tampons go and there's like a whole like stigma around tampons, and he was just like, wait, what? Because you'd grown up like obviously in South Africa, where I'm sure like tampons, whatever, but and you don't have sisters, so like you don't have like immediate family members who were using at least
and also my exposure.
Tell me what that was.
The women I've been around, I think I've benefited in life in general by being around very bright, inspiring, independent, kind of forward-thinking women. So my expectation of the norm has always been very progressive. And it's been like, I don't know, I probably had some sexist ideas growing up because you grow up in a society, at least for a while, you're going to pick something up. But I was disabused of them very quickly by being around better women, or not better women, just women, and then better people. And so, I was like, wait, why is tampons a problem? It just, I don't get it. I was very baffled. Even still am.
But that was a great acknowledgement, and it made me very happy.
Sure, do you have something?
One thing I wanted to just double check. Are we sure Nadia's Pakistani in Miss Marvel? Because in the comics she's Turkish.
I think she's mixed ethnicity. I'm not sure what her both her ethnicities are. I know she's Muslim. I don't think she's Pakistani. I don't know.
I don't know. Because you can go to the same mosque if you're not also Pakistani. So
of course. That's a religion.
I wasn't sure because I don't know if they changed it for Miss Marvel that she's something or other. I don't know.
In the comics she is Turkish. I don't actually know.
All right. So we'll find out soon enough.
We'll find out.
Anyone knows, let us know.
In episode 3, hopefully we'll get to see.
But whatever the ethnicity, fantastic acting. Nadia, whatever scene she's in, she shines. Which is like, Brian's mad. Oh, poor Brian.
Also, another scene which I wanna. So unless you guys have any other ones, I know which one I want to touch on because the history nerd in me.
I want to talk about the partition.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
the
I
same
think
one.
same wavelength. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll
Go
lead
on.
us into it, and then you can take off and Chirag chime in anytime you feel like it. But the scene where they talk about the past of the Khan family and like where they came from and like what their grandparents lived through, and then they mention the partition and then very awkwardly kind of go, it was a bad time, the British carved us up and we all suffered, and then but we are here now. And I just think that's pretty much how a lot of people handle it. It is, I think, two general ways in which people approach it. They either have very strong antagonistic opinions about the partition, in the sense that there's like still existing resentment towards a certain group, or there's the sense of I lived through the trauma and I don't want to talk about it because it's not a good part of our history.
Yeah.
And it's not something that's ever been talked about in Hollywood, so it was interesting.
Yeah. I like the line where they're like, every Pakistani family has a partition story, which is also true. Almost every Indian family has a partition story.
Not
like
the
my
same,
family's got one.
But
not
of course, no, of course, Pakistan's thing, they're like possibly India wasn't affected, but it's like partition affected the country. Hey, you're not going to shut up.
No.
No.
You don't need to shut up. My God.
I think like my family is Bengali, and for us it obviously wasn't the Pakistani side of things. It was the split between India and Bengal, right?
Yeah.
And so like I've had similar like conversations where they'll talk for a few moments about that tough period in our lives, and it'll be like very hush hush, like and so like I felt that obviously not nearly the same, but I can't imagine the catharsis for Pakistani kids who've grown up like with like generational trauma from having lived like from their families having lived through the partition to see that like on screen.
Because I don't know, I know that our Indian audiences will be at least marginally aware of the partition. I would be very surprised if you weren't. But for our non-Indian audiences, a little, or non-Desi audiences, a little bit of context. Yes, Chirag?
I mean, they explain what it is in the episode.
But very briefly, what they say is essentially the British carved it up, but that doesn't really capture the scope of what went down. To kind of put it very briefly, essentially during British India, Pakistan, all the way to the territory from what is now Pakistan, India, and then what is now Bangladesh, were all essentially British India. And then when the British were finally forced to leave, the way that the land got divided up was West Pakistan and East Pakistan and India in the middle. East Pakistan eventually became Bangladesh through a form of rebellion, which is a different story altogether. The Bangladesh Liberation War took 3 million lives of its own, which is a mini Holocaust of its own sort, and it's a different story. But during partition, because what essentially happened was you were dividing around the lines of religion. You had people in Pakistan, West Pakistan and East Pakistan who were Hindu or Sikh, and they were essentially, they thought they would be safer in India, or they thought they would have more refuge here. So they were moving across borders, and they essentially had to leave whatever houses, life they had over there, pack and leave. And the same was true for Muslim people in India, who thought they would be safer in East or West Pakistan, and therefore they had to leave at a moment's notice. And it was this massive migration that happened, which also escalated to conflicts that were very bloody. And there's no need to get into finger pointing because there's enough blood on both sides of the thing. And Indrani, I don't know if your family has a Chirag, but I know my grandparents actually did have life in Karachi, and that they actually moved to Gujarat. So my grandparents, a freshly young married couple, early 20s, moved during partition. So it is very much a thing that's very recent, because my grandparents, that's one generation beyond my grasp, right? So it was very bloody, lots of lives lost, and it essentially sowed the seeds for the discontent that still kind of simmers between these nations. So
like I don't know all the stories as much as I should, but yeah, I'm Sindhi, so that means I'm from Sindh. Like I know some of the stories. Like they traveled by boat and different things, and when she got to Mumbai, but I don't know all the stories as I should. But yeah, yeah, but yeah, that's what I said. It resonated. Like yeah, there's a partition story.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, like because numbers often help like contextualize and show impact. The partition of India is the second largest refugee crisis in the world, right after World War II, I think. So within a year, I think there were the estimates vary very highly, but the higher side of the estimates is 20 million people who were displaced during in the span of 1 year, which it's my family doesn't talk about it. Like I know we have partition stories because my from Bangladesh to here, but it's always very hush hush. Like I still don't have a full picture of. But I know that like everybody feels one way or the another. But yeah, Miss Marvel, great show. Glad they talked about it.
So good, so good. Shall we talk about theories, or you want to go back?
What theories? What else do we have?
Throw us a theory. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's it called? We're going to definitely. Like I've seen like some of the trailers and things. I'm just like, I think they're going to like. I don't know if they're going to stay in America. They might actually just go to other parts to like have cool fights, because they definitely like looks like trailers where they're like fighting in ethnic. Well, I don't know if that means they're fighting at the wedding or if they're literally Kamran's mum takes him off, to go do Marvel stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Or the bangles allow you to teleport, because that could totally be a thing.
They could definitely they let you travel into another dimension. We saw that when they did that flip thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't know what that actually means in this universe.
I think Peter Parker.
Yeah.
She's a local.
Yeah.
Like Kamala's story is the story of a girl from New Jersey saving the world, and I feel like you only establish that she can save the world if you first build her story out in New. I mean, I would be open to like world portal travel, whatever, but I do want her to see her be her community's hero first.
Yeah.
Like I want that to,
and
I would rather they focus on that
and not drop kids from mosque buildings to car.
Yeah. Do you think they're going to recognize like, okay, she tried her best, or they're going to be like they broke this kid's ankle? What do you think they're going to?
Oh man, it's going to be.
I think there'll be people who do both. I feel like there's I don't feel like it'll be like one sentiment or the other, but yeah.
They'll be like like that girl is haram, and there'll be some people who will be straight up shitting on the idea that she's dressed like that, and there'll be others who are like, come on.
Which side do you think? What do you think our favorite Anjali Bhimani is going to be? Which way do you think Auntie Ruby is going to go?
Ooh.
I think Auntie Ruby is here to stir the drama.
Yeah,
is what my opinion.
You think she's our J. Jonah Jameson?
Oh,
nah,
that's too much.
No.
She's not that mean.
She'll be like, she won't be like reporting it. She'll be like in the gossip channel, like, this girl's haram, this girl's a menace, and it's all that kind of
stuff. If anyone can spoil what's happened, like reveal Kamala's secret, it would probably be Ruby Auntie.
Yeah. If she knew.
If she knew, she would probably do it.
Yeah.
She would go to the mother first.
Okay, because we're talking about Ruby Auntie.
Yes.
Shubham knows the story. I don't know if you do, Chirag, but I have. Initially, this was like that's a sweet compliment that I've received.
Sure.
And now it's like a core memory in my head. But before it was revealed that Anjali would be on Miss Marvel, we had like been speaking multiple times, and on 2 separate occasions, she was like, "Oh, you remind me of that girl. I don't know her. I don't remember her name. The girl who plays Miss Marvel, Iman something." And I'm like, "Oh, that's really sweet." And she said that on 2 different occasions, like couple months apart.
Right.
And both times she never quite remembered the character, like the person's
that's
name.
That's hilarious.
And yeah, and I was like fucking great actress because I bought it hook, line, and sinker. I'm like, oh yeah, Iman Manani, I'm so excited for Miss Marvel, and thank you. I'm honored that you think that.
Yeah.
And then when it came out, I'm like, Anjali, and she's like, I had to be careful. But
that's quoting the India line right there. Nice.
Yeah. I can see the comparison, because like her and Paul Rudd, you're charming and look younger than you actually are.
Wait,
I
how?
look younger than I actually
Yeah,
do?
I don't know.
It's why we
That's
call you a
the
15
first
year.
time I've heard that.
We
Actually,
call
no,
you
you do-
15 years old all the time.
No,
I
Indrani
love-
looks like she's 32,
No, she
and
doesn't.
aging
What
quickly.
universe are you watching?
She's
She looks
aging
like
quick.
Thanks.
She looks like
Mom.
she's 3.2 years old. What are you on about?
3.2 is
You
very
have
cheap.
two kinds of friends. You have two kinds.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently.
Oh, you're a baby. Oh, you're an old woman.
I think you're an old woman.
Point is,
Yes,
Auntie Ruby thinks that I am
that you're a
basically
mischievous
Miss Marvel,
nutcut who's
Yeah.
going to get everyone into trouble and bring shame to the family. That sounds about right.
which checks out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that checks
Bring
out.
shame to the
So,
family. Speaking of, we didn't even talk about the Mulan reference.
There was a Mulan reference.
Yes, in episode 1.
What is it?
Literally
Remind
The
me.
guy was like
Oh,
saying,
because
like,
he quotes.
he quotes a Mulan song in like the interview.
Oh yes, that counselor is such a mood. I never met that kind of counselor before, but I feel like every person trying to be hip sounds exactly like him.
Mhm.
I love our my gaydar went off, obviously. So I'm just gonna say I
What?
love
The
a
guy who
little-
said I'm Meryl Streep and was just like chose instead of Star Wars to use The Devil Wears Prada as his reference point. You thought he might be gay? What? With that
Nah.
outfit? What?
I love him. Yeah, shout out to yeah,
I don't
great
know.
guy. I thought the Meryl Streep because as a person very deeply entrenched into queer culture, watching it next to a person who is not, aka Legs, my partner, like I glanced at him, then the
No,
whole
nothing,
Devil Wears
nothing.
Prada reference just like went right over his
right.
head, and he said Meryl Streep, and I glanced at him, and he's like, "Oh," and I could see his face was like, "Hoga kuch to."
Brilliant.
which was great.
Brilliant. Meanwhile, me
I-
going, did he just Devil Wears Prada from Star Wars? That's hilarious.
Yeah. If you
I
want to know
loved
his
it.
name, it's Jordan Firstman. And
Firstman?
yeah, he's if you want to know whether or not he's gay, he wrote an ode sung by the Gainesville Choir of Los Angeles celebrating gay representation in film and is openly gay. He's like, I'm looking
There
at
we go.
everything is just like, okay, yeah, it's very,
Yeah.
yeah.
Amazing.
It's great.
Um,
He's fantastic.
Happy
I wanna see
Pride
more.
to you specifically. man.
Specifically you and the couple by the lockers.
the couple
Specifically
by the
you.
locker. Sorry, going back to, because Chirag, you brought this up. She has her own Bollywood moment where she comes in and she's vibing to music and she's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have ever done this. I have done this a lot where I'm just in the mood and I have a song playing in my earphones and I'm just like, hey, this is my song. I'm having a moment. You're all just here to enjoy it. Let's vibe. It's happened to the point where I was once vibing by myself in university, just walking to a class or something, and someone like randomly tapped me on my shoulder and they were like, what song are you listening to? And I told them and they were like, don't know it, but must be amazing because you seem to be really enjoying yourself. So if any moment connected with me in Kamala's life, it wasn't the crazy production value or her conspiracy theories about MCU or any of that. It was where she was vibing to a song and enjoying her own little dance number. Felt that.
As someone who has been privy to your vibing, it is immaculate and it makes
Thank
me
you, thank
feel
you.
like just existing around you in that moment is just the best.
Thank you.
I have had to, in occasion, make space at the railway station while we're walking because Shubham's vibing to a song, and I'm like, all right, step aside.
Everybody, get out of the way.
But yeah, get out of the way. Shubham's
This is
having,
my moment.
yeah.
Uh,
Shubham's the main character. We're all just existing. In
Listen,
his-
as far as main character attitudes can go, mine's pretty decent.
It's true. It's true.
It's-
I love it, is what I'm saying. But okay, because we're talking about her Marvel, her MCU, whatever theories.
Mhm.
Can we talk about AvengerCon? Just cutting back to episode 1 real quick.
What
Oh my
about-
god, I would love to attend AvengerCon, and I loved the little details of like meta jokes that were just
Yeah.
sprinkled in there, like
Yeah.
that mass, like that Funko Pop looking thing of
Mhm.
Captain America with like a massive butt that says
Mhm.
"You're welcome, America." Love it.
Great.
Amazing, perfect, beautiful. No notes.
Love
Anyway,
Yeah, it's a
like
good
it
fun.
was it was capitalist hellscapes, sure, but
Sure.
also just I want to go.
This is
I mean, I would
pre-war.
actually. This is not as capitalist as it could be because this does look like fan events. Like, yeah, there's stuff for sale, and like all this kind. But it's like it's nice thing.
You
like,
guys noticed there was
Asgard Pride.
Marvel logos in there, right?
What?
Yeah,
The
yeah, there were
Marvel
there was like a
logos.
Marvel company in the MCU
Yeah.
because like the Marvel logo was on a lot of the merch and stuff, which I thought was an interesting little
cool.
detail. But
I don't know how
yeah.
that works, but sure. I mean, the Marvel
Yeah, nor do I.
Marvel characters have
But-
like the writers have shown up in comics sometimes.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Mhm.
So the like in the comics, famous comic heroes have like
Deadpool
in-world
even killed
comics.
them.
So
Sure, but sometimes they've basically been like, "Who is our god?" And it's just a guy writing or drawing the comic.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, okay,
yeah,
we get it, we get it." I think it's Jack Kirby.
Uh,
I think it's Jack Kirby usually. I think Jack Kirby appears in the TVA as like all the characters are just different Jack Kirbys.
that's hilarious.
I
I'll
love
double
that.
check that.
And
I'll
also
double-check
credit
that.
to Jack Kirby, who is probably the second, also not probably, definitely one of the founding fathers of the Marvel verse.
Steve
I mean-
Ditko, Jack Kirby.
I mean,
yeah,
and also DC Comics. He was everywhere.
Yes.
He's done
yeah.
all the New Gods is his stuff, and it's
Yeah.
good stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
We are running over, so we should wrap this up. Final thoughts on Miss Marvel. Anything you're particularly looking forward to? Yes.
I'm looking forward to when I go to London to make my Nani watch the show. Like you will sit down and you will watch this, and then we're going to watch this together.
Nice. I like
and
this.
also, I'm looking
If
forward
you
to my
record
mom.
it, we should stream it.
Speaking, and I'll ask my mom if she will be part of the stream next
Yes,
time because you
let's do
apparently want she spots the plots.
I would
ahead of
love
time.
it.
I want to hear from Asnani auntie what she thinks about Kamla and everyone. So yes, and also want the spicy stories
Yes.
on Chirag's life. So
Oh,
definitely.
so much. Oh, they're all terrible. Boring spice.
Okay, Indrani, any final thoughts on Miss Marvel?
Final thoughts. Loved it. No notes. The music is great.
Yes.
Mm.
I love.
Shout
the
out to
Desi
Eva
rap.
B,
That's-
who is the Pakistani rapper in who's played at the end of the first episode. It's a great song, and she's really talented. A funny story: she started as a rapper at a young age, but stopped because there was a backlash against her showing her face. So now she raps with a mask on, and that way her family feels safer and everything. And so you don't know what she looks like, which I think is again leaning nicely into the superhero tie-in
That
over
is
here.
very metal and
Yeah.
hardcore. I love that.
Or very rap. Why would you bring metal into this?
But,
yeah,
sorry, I mean.
I know
metal,
what you mean.
not in the
I'm
music
just
sense.
playing with you.
Yeah.
I know what
Yeah,
you
yeah,
mean.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Music? Yes.
Music's very good.
Uh-huh.
I'm just excited to see how the story unfolds. Like
Uh-huh.
I like everything's great so far. Like I love everything.
Yeah, go on.
I don't want anything
What about
bad
you,
to happen to the Khan family. I hope they're all okay.
Yeah, jeez.
They're all wonderful. They're all great.
Yeah, no, I don't want Kamla to learn a Uncle Ben style lesson. That would be heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Please don't do
Uh,
that to us. We
yeah.
don't need that. But I can totally also see how there could be some great ways to fit that in. If I was a writer, as a writer, I know exactly the kind of buttons I can press to make this feel charged. But I hope they're going to do something else because my audience heart can't take it. Okay, my final thoughts quickly. I have not seen the trailers for Miss Marvel, or if I have, I've forgotten them. And I just realized that possibly the finale is going to be around this wedding that everyone keeps talking about. So I'm looking forward to a big Hollywood / Indian Desi wedding happening with a Marvel villain showdown. I feel like that might be, the high key, the thing that I'm like really excited to see play out.
Stop saying something Loki. He's not showing up. He's not going to be in the end
If
credits. Stop
only.
pushing it.
But those are our final thoughts for now. We will be back after episode 3 and 4 together. So because we did episode 1 and 2, and then episode.
I know
3.
we. Okay, we'll see. We'll discuss.
Yeah,
it.
let's
We'll-
just do 3. We'll just do 3, y'all.
Okay.
We'll do one because
We will
there's so much to
discuss
say.
and discover it. There will
Yeah.
be more of this stuff.
All right.
Of,
We are professionals.
of tangents and tea time or whatever we call ourselves. See ya.
Bye bye.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Desis and Dragons. Today,